Hey, Mr. Stan 913 here. Well, welcome to our latest live stream. And on this stream, we want to talk about our road trips that we took in the year 2024. Sorry, we're late. It's now 2025, but we had the holidays and everything. But we want to talk about three of the road trips that we took in 2024, where we stayed, what we did, what we thought. So we're going to talk about Savannah, Georgia. We're going to talk about Charleston, South Carolina, and Harpers, Ferry, West Virginia. These trips were adventurous. Two of the trips were adventurous, but they were fun, and we have plans for this coming year for more trips. But I have my wife Dorothy here, and we're going to first start off with Savannah, Georgia. And what we did was we rented a vehicle and we drove from where we live down to Savannah. That's where we started our trek. We started in Savannah and then worked our way north. But something a little bit happened on our way when we got to Savannah. Dorothy, if you want to talk about that.
So they had been calling for a hurricane to come up the Gulf and go into the top part of Florida and then shoot straight across to none other than Savannah. So we realized that the day we arrived was probably going to be our only clear day. So we tried to jam a lot into that first day and into the second day. But the second day, the hurricane did hit, and we had a tremendous amount of flooding. And we had to change all of our plans. We did stay, but we kind of tried to move up our trip a little bit because the second place we were going was the Carolinas. And so we tried to get out of Savannah and get up to the Carolinas before the storm moved. Unfortunately, it didn't work out so well, and it kind of moved with us. So our last stop was supposed to be Williamsburg, Virginia, and we did cancel that part of the plan, and we stayed in the Carolinas until the storm went past us. But the most amazing thing of our trip, which Stan will probably talk about later, is we got to see one of our favorite weather forecasters in the Carolinas.
So in Savannah here, you're seeing these squares. These are like little squares that are out all throughout the town. And one of the popular squares is where they filmed Forrest Gump. So that was where we went on our first day. And one of the shots here is where they filmed Forrest Gump. Right there, that shot you're seeing is where the actual bench was where they filmed the movie. It was pretty cool going around that day. It was a cloudy day, like Dorothy said. But we didn't mention where we stayed in Savannah.
So this whole trip we stayed at residence inns, and the resident inn that we stayed at was really kind of nicely located. It was off to the one side of the whole town, but the nice thing about Savannah is everything is in walking distance and it's very flat, so it's easy to get around. But the one thing we did take advantage of, which I highly recommend if you're staying there, is the trolley tour. The trolley tour,
and we'll get to that. We have slides on that. Yeah.
So, but the courts, the squares, there's like 20 different squares in the whole city, and it's just so delightful to walk from one square to the next. You'll see the pictures that we're showing. It's just beautiful, the trees and the moss and the gardens. It's just really nice to see.
So moving on to our next slide, in Savannah, we tried to cramp a lot in, so we took this Savannah riverboat cruise before the hurricane actually hit, and the cruise was pretty cool. You could see the clouds forming here in this shot. This was the hurricane, like the day before the hurricane hit. And we took this cruise at night. It drizzled a little bit. It goes up the river, right? And then it turns around and comes back. But we were able to see dolphins. We were able to see some construction plants, some things that they're building there. So what did you think of the cruise?
As far as cruises that I've been on, I usually like the boat cruises because most of the time when we've gone on them, they give you history as you go along. And the one thing I was very disappointed about this cruise was that it doesn't give you the history or anything. Like, there's no talking, it's just music. They do have a dinner part, which we did not partake in, which was like a sit down dinner during the cruise. Where we were, we could buy food if we wanted to, which we did buy our dinner there.
Yeah, it was
But
okay. It was
it
almost
wasn't,
like, yeah,
it was just kind of like,
fried food.
yeah. So honestly, I wouldn't recommend it if you have a short time in Savannah. It wasn't definitely one of my highlights. It's a nice boat cruise if you enjoy that and want to just sit and relax, but I didn't really feel like we got a lot out of it.
Yeah, but pretty cool at night. We were coming back and we saw some huge tanker ships coming by us. I think I have a video out on our page of that boat cruise. You'll see the full video, and at night some big tankers were going by that were really cool. And I forgot to mention, all these trips are on our page, Mr. Stan 913, and you can see our trip on during each of our days in Savannah. So moving on from the boat cruise, Dorothy mentioned earlier the Old Town Trolley Tour of Savannah. Really cool tour. You can watch our video, but the day we took this, that's when the hurricane was hitting. It was really rainy. You can see in this picture, they had plastic over the windows, so it was raining. It takes you through the whole town, and there's a lot of stops.
There's a lot of stops. I highly recommend it if you're going to be in Savannah, because one, it takes you all over the town, so it gives you a good idea of where everything is. And a lot of the stops, like, there are house museums. Unfortunately, they were all closed that day due to the storm. But there were house museums. There's the downtown shopping area. So the nice thing about it is, if you do it, what I recommend is getting on the first trolley of the day, taking the full tour, which was about 45 minutes, and then staying on the trolley and going back to the place where you want to get off, and you can use it as your transportation all day. It runs all day. It stops at all these different stops.
It starts up at near the museum. And when we got off, it was pouring rain. And we went into the museum, and I don't have a screenshot here of it, but in that actual museum is the actual bench from Forrest Gump, the movie. And it's made out of fiberglass. And the girl was very nice enough to let me go in and see it, because the hurricane was hitting. They were closing early. She let us go in and see the bench, and it was really cool to see. But like Dorothy said, you can drive around, start at the beginning to the end, and then you can stop in places. You can stop and shop and wait for the next trolley. It even takes you down to where the riverboat, we stopped and we took the riverboat, and there's all shops right along there.
So definitely the trolley was well worth the money, and you could get on and off all day long and use it as your transportation, and it stopped at a lot of the different important parts around the town.
And the one thing we did miss, that same trolley tour took a ghost tour, right?
Yes, we had a ghost tour scheduled for that night, but the streets had started to flood so badly by that evening that we were not able to go on that.
So moving on to our next slide was in Savannah, there's the American Prohibition Museum, which we had reservations for, and it was great to have this because it was pouring rain at this point. And this is all indoors, and it's the whole history of Prohibition. But we did an added part of that tour. Can you tell them, Darn?
So our tour was, it's a guided tour. So you could go to the Prohibition Museum and just go through the museum yourself.
Walk through yourself, yeah.
But we did a guided tour and cocktail experience, and I loved the guided tour because she walked you through the museum.
We had our own private, it was on our own private guide.
Yeah, but it wouldn't necessarily have been. It's just because it was so bad out, nobody was coming to the museum. But she walks you through the museum, answers any questions that you have, and then at the end, you end up at a speakeasy.
It's a
and
hidden bar.
a lady was there, and we mixed two drinks, and we were able to drink them.
We learned how to do
And
it.
it was a lot of fun, and she went over like the difference between shaken and not stirred if you're a big
James
James
Bond.
Bond fan. I Out of everything we did on this whole trip, I thought this was so much fun.
Yeah, it was.
It was
And-
a lot of fun.
And it's good for, again, if it's raining and you can't stay outside, it's all indoors. You could stay at the speakeasy as long as you want because it's an actual bar. You can drink there. But we had our drinks and we left because we got back to the hotel, the Marriott, and it was pretty bad. And we decided to cut our trip in Savannah a day early and start moving up towards Charleston because the storm was moving with us.
So, and if I can say, we planned for each of these cities, we planned to stay for 3 days.
Mhm.
And I do have to say, it would have been a perfect amount of time to see the city, to do what you needed to do. So, yeah, if you're going to go visit, I definitely say 3 days is plenty of time.
So we moved up a day. We drove up to Charleston. That was a trek because we got stuck almost into a flood on a private road. All of Charleston was shut down. So luckily the Marriott that we were staying in was on the outside of Charleston. So we were able to get in there, able to get some food. The next day we got into Charleston, and this was our first day, and we just walked around. The storm was just ending, so a lot of the places were closed, and as we were driving around, we bumped into Jim Cantori from the Weather Channel, and Jim was there, and he was explaining how bad the storm was, what they were expecting to happen, after the storm, when things were going to start opening up. He was a very nice guy. We got a picture with him. I actually called him Mr. Serious because he is serious about weather. But it was great to see Jim. But this is some pictures of Charleston while we were there. And Darth, what do you want to add to about Charleston? This is our first day. This is some of the shots of the slave house here.
Yeah, Charleston was a very pretty town, very different from Savannah. If you had to choose between the two, they're just distinctly different. Their downtown shopping area is very high end, fancy stores. I do think the architecture here is beautiful. We did. Are you going to get to the tours that we did?
Yeah, well, we did the horseback tour. I don't have a picture of that.
Yeah, we did it was a Old Town trolley tour.
No, that's Savannah. That's Savannah.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's Savannah. We did a horse-drawn tour of Charleston, and I have to say that was probably one of the best tours that we've ever taken.
Yeah, the tour guide, he was excellent. He walked through the entire. We're on the tour with the horse, pushing us along, pulling us along, and it was really cool. His history of the town was really good, and it was only 4 of us. It was great.
Yeah, but again, that's just because of the storm.
Storm.
But I do recommend taking that tour early in your visit, because he toured you around the whole area, so it would give you an idea of what you might want to go back and look at or see. But that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then with that we had a reservation at the Edmonston Alston House, which was, we took a tour of this house, and this was really cool. We really liked this. We had a guide that walked us through the house. You want to talk about that?
If you're a big Outer Banks fan, if you watch that show, some of the show was filmed in this house. And it's a beautiful house. It also is a bed and breakfast, so you can actually rent rooms there. But she walks you through it, and she did mention the Outer Banks. And it was just a beautiful, all-furnished home, and we got to walk through the entire house.
And actually, the family still lives on the 3rd floor of the house. As we were there, we saw the elevator, and the gentleman was going up, and it was really cool. Like the first day, we didn't do it the first day because it was closed. It was the second day we went, and we took this tour. But yeah, really cool. Great architecture. Overlooks the what is it? The river, the ocean. There, you could actually see Fort Sumter from there, which we're going to get into next. But the funny part is, while we were on this trip, we both caught COVID. We got sick. A lot of us got sick. It just was a thing that happened, but we just kept trekking through. So we had a hurricane. We got sick. We got over it pretty quick, but it was really challenging. We took the Fort Sumter National Monument. So we went there, and that's a boat ride all the way over, which takes about 30 minutes. And you want to talk about that?
Once you get over to the fort, you are allowed to just walk around. They have different signs, and you just kind of do your own thing. It's really cool to see.
And we were the first there after the hurricane. So if you see here, Dorothy got a chance to raise the flag with other people that were there. But when we got there, they had sandbags lined up at the doors and everything because they didn't know what it was going to look like when we got over there. So they actually had to kick the door open to get in. But it wasn't real. There was no floods. It wasn't bad. But it was a really cool thing to see. You know, you see the movie Glory with Denzel Washington. They point out where that actual battle happened right around that area. And it was really cool to see. And that's only, what you're seeing there, that's only the small size of what that was. The walls were actually higher, and they go into that.
They have models. They have like a little museum
inside
it.
Yeah, inside that little black thing you just saw. There's a whole museum in there. But actually, they tell you a lot about it on your way over on the boat. And it was really cool. It was cool. And there wasn't that many people when we first went. There was like 12 people. Right? Maybe?
Yeah. Well, we needed 10 people to have the boat leave the dock, and we just made it with, I think, 12 people.
So as we were in Fort Sumter, they pointed out another fort that was there. It was called Fort Moultrie. And we were like, oh, how do you get to that? And there's this huge bridge we had to go across. So we had to take the boat back. We had to get in our car. We had to take this boat, over this bridge, and we went to Fort Moultrie, which is another national park. And this was like the museum was across the street. The fort was on the other side.
They had a movie.
They had a movie inside about it, and this is inside the fort. You could see the water right there. That's where all the flooding was inside here during the storm. But you see how the skies are clearing up here. But this is another fort, part of the Civil War that was here, and it was actually used during World War II, I think, too, to set up during World War II. They had guns there. But that was a pretty cool fort. And this was a walk, and you did it yourself, right, Dark?
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about that? No, but that was cool. We had a really, really good time walking around at Fort Moultrie. So moving on to Charleston, we went back. The next day we went to the Boone Hall Plantation and Gardens. Look at this. Those trees are actually beautiful. And if you ever saw the movie The North and the South with Patrick Swayze, that was filmed here. The Notebook with Ryan Gosling, that was filmed here. But this was such a really cool place. Dorothy, you want to talk a little bit about this?
So there's a couple plantations in the area, and we decided to pick this one. You had a time. When you got there, you had to sign up for a time to actually be taken inside to the plantation house, and you got a full tour of the house, and it's beautiful inside, fully furnished. And then the outside, you could just walk around. Now they did have some outdoor, I think they had like a carriage ride outside.
Yeah.
But because this was the first day it was reopening, because of all the mud and stuff, we weren't able to take advantage of that. But you could walk around. They had the slave houses still there. They had a gift shop and a place where you could eat, and you could just walk. They had a barn, and they had some animals.
Butterfly room where all the butterflies are flying around.
Yeah. So it was really enjoyable. Very nice.
Look at these trees there. That was the
drive-in. That's the drive-in.
Beautiful.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah, we were stopping the car to get out and take a shot, waiting for people to get out of the way. But and this is the inside, and you can watch my video again on Mr. Stan 913. We weren't allowed to film inside the house, but I was able to film all outside the plantation, the slave houses. It was a really, really cool place. So we
Now-
were supposed to go to West
Now,
Virginia.
before that, though,
Oh, go ahead.
we also did a ghost tour here called Death and Depravity Tour. I have to say, the tour itself, what you learned on the tour was really amazing information. There was a lot of stories. I really, really enjoyed it, but our tour guide was a little odd.
Yeah, she was. She was a
was
little odd.
But the information she provided was really good.
Yeah, we try to find ghost tours when we're on all these trips that we take because we're into that. But
So I have mixed feelings whether to recommend it because the information was terrific, but the tour guide itself, she was a little
yeah,
odd.
so from Charleston, we were supposed to go to West Virginia, but we weren't able to go to West. Where were we going
We
in
were
West
going
Virginia?
to Williamsburg.
Williamsburg, West Virginia, but the storm was still moving up the coast. So we were like, A, let's get out of Savannah early. B, let's just stay in Charleston and finish up the trip from there. So that was our trip in the summer. That was our big trip in the summer that we took. So in the fall, we went with another couple to Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. So we went back to Virginia, but we didn't go. We went to Harpers Ferry, which was a really, really cool town. And on our way to the trip, and let me give you a little bit about myself. I do not like, and I'm not sure I've ever want to do it, but I'm probably going to try it out. I'm going to do a bed and breakfast. I'm a little afraid of them. So as we were driving, I asked Dorothy, "Well, where are we staying?" And she's like, "I don't know." And I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, I don't really want to say." So here it was called it was a guest house. It was a house converted into these rooms. And they're by, how do you say that?
Potomac.
Potomac Adventures. And there's 9 guest house that they have. And the one we stayed at was Harper Ferry's guest house. And I have to admit, you pulled in, you had it was side parking area, and you gave your last 4 digits of your cell phone number. You go in this little lobby area and you go up these steps, and it's just a hallway with rooms. And this is what it looked like inside. I have to admit, it was really, really nice. And here you see we had cereal, we had orange juice, we had coffee, and all you had to do was text them to say when you needed extra coffee, extra food, and you would leave, come back, and bang, it was there. Very quiet. It was
in a nice spot. You were at the top of the hill, so you had to walk down.
Yeah, this is
to
the
get
bathroom.
into
Look at that.
Harper's Ferry. But I enjoyed where we were because it was just perfectly. You were real close to the center of town. It is a hike though, coming back up.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, but if you have a hard time walking up hills,
Yeah.
it might be a little.
Yeah, our
bit of a
friends
challenge.
did. So we did. We drove down after that, and actually our friend had a National Park Service parking, so we got parking for free.
Well, what I was going to recommend, if
Yeah.
you visit Harper's Ferry, your very, very first stop needs to be to the visitor center.
Yes.
Because the thing about Harper's Ferry, the town, is it is part of the national park.
Yeah.
So
I
all
mean,
the
so you drive down the
parking-
road, and next thing you know, it says National Park.
Yeah,
So
so
boom.
part of the town, you're actually in the national park. So the very downtown area is the park.
Yeah.
And so it was a little confusing when we got there, but going to the visitor center, they explain it all to you. And the other thing that you get from the visitor center is you have to buy a parking pass.
Yes.
And so you buy a parking pass for however many days you're going to be there, and highly recommend the pass because no matter where you are in Harper's Ferry, it's park. And so in order to park in their parking lots, you need a pass. So definitely hit up the visitor center first. That's also where you're going to get maps because it's a really big hiking area. So if you like to hike,
So let me go to the slides here so they can see the town. So here's pictures of when you get to the bottom of the road where the town is right here.
It
Very.
has a lot. It has much of the feel of Jim Thorpe,
Yes.
Pennsylvania, where we were before.
Yeah, and actually, trains go through here. There's a tunnel. You'll see. I have a shot. I think in the next bit of slides, there's a tunnel where actual diesel engine trains come through, and there's the church at the top there. We'll get into that. We did a ghost tour here, and if you see these buildings, and this is all. There's the bridge, and there's the tunnel. So you can walk across this bridge too and wait for the train to come through. And we missed it every time. But if you watch my video, there is a time where it actually comes through the town, the train, and there is some walking paths too. We did that. Dorothy and I walked through.
Yeah, I highly recommend the visitor guide will tell you, easy, moderate,
Yes.
difficult paths, but all through the town you can go on these trails.
Yep.
And highly recommend going out to that bridge, walking the bridge, and walking down along the stream is also really, really nice.
What you think of the food in the shops?
The food is delicious. The shops were all cute. They had quaint little shops. They had ice cream parlors, good ice cream. We had this one little tiny restaurant every morning we hit up for breakfast.
Actually, it
because
says a
was so
shot
good.
of it right here coming up. It's and I think I did a small little short on it on Mr. Stan 913, and we ate there every morning for like a little breakfast. And
It was perfect.
people would come in. We just started talking. It was just right here. It's right there. It's right there on the left there. We went in there every morning for like a little breakfast sandwich. But moving on, our hiking trails. So we did some hiking trails around that area. One that we missed was a famous one that overlooks the town. We didn't go the day it was nice. The next day it rained, and we didn't want to go up there because they say it's a little slippery. But we're going to get back there, and we're going to get a shot of the town.
But that's a beautiful shot. That was a trail. So there's two really amazing trails. The one we didn't get to go on. And then there's this one, which is up by the church.
Takes you to the cemetery.
And it's a beautiful view. It's a shame the weather wasn't. We got hit with another hurricane. This was actually the hurricane that decimated North Carolina. That was where we were here when that happened. So we didn't have much luck weather-wise, but it was still beautiful.
Now, we did do the ghost tour. What you think of the ghost tour?
The ghost tour was great. The ghost tour met at the church and walked you down through the town. And I think there's only one group that does a ghost tour in the
And
town.
that night we had
a
over
ton of
30 people on that ghost tour, and it was really cool. You were able to ask questions, and it's really cool. You're walking through the night there, and you're like, we're in a historical area, and you just, she tells you the story of some of the ghosts in the town, and you just can picture it because just the way the town looks, it's really, really cool. And again, we were able to park down there. We walked through the whole town. Really cool thing to see, and book them when you get a chance. Now, like we said, this is a national park area, so this is around a lot of the Civil War parks. So this is our last bit of slides, but when we got there, we went to a couple Civil War parks and walked around. And do you want to talk about some of them, Darth?
So in Tatum?
Well, this is when we went the first day, and then we went to the Tatum, right? You can go.
So Antietam was one of, I always thought, well, Gettysburg is the bloodiest battle in the Civil War, but Antietam was the bloodiest one day.
One day with
where they lost. It was where they lost the most amount of men in a one-day period. And something we discovered on this trip, because there were so many national parks, is the National Park Service has an app. If you are going to be visiting the national parks, we highly recommend that you download their app. And what it does is it gives you a driving guided tour. Audio for any park in the whole country. So, and it's free. So we took advantage of that when we went to Antietam, and we just drove through the park, and it would tell you to stop, and then it would tell you about that location and what happened. So if you're into the history and the battles and stuff, It's a sad but very interesting park. They had a movie inside the visitor center.
Yeah.
Then you could watch a movie, and
And
then
this
you could
bridge
drive
right
around.
here was where one of the battles was, and there's an actual tree there that's still there from the Civil War. There's an actual drawing of that tree, and then they point out that that tree is the exact same tree from the Civil War. But yeah, a lot of history. If you're into Civil War, if you're into national parks, we recommend going here. Again, I learn a lot when I go to these places. I didn't even know a lot of these places existed. But that was our 3 big trips in 2024. A lot to come in 2025.
We're going north.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to avoid the
We're
hurricanes.
gonna try to avoid the hurricanes and go north again, like we did 2 years ago. But again, with those trips, I will be posting those videos each day that we're there, what we're doing. So, and then these trips we just showed you today. Go out on Mr. Stan 913, and you could see those days when we went to Harpers, Ferry, when we went to Savannah, and we went to Charleston. But again, on our page, just remember to check out our crafts that we do. Dorothy does a lot of crafts out there. She has crafts for Valentine's Day right now. Our Christmas crafts are there, and some of our product demos that we have done. And of course, always check out our travel stuff. So this is Mr. Stan 913. We thank you for watching. We hope you enjoy our page. We hope you enjoy some of the places that we're visiting. And again, we've now passed 3,000 subscribers. If you like to recommend our page to somebody, please do. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. This is Mr. Stan 913. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.